Hey everybody, welcome back. So, in this video, I'm going to be going over another important endgame. And this one is what to do if you're playing as white, you have a queen and a king, and your opponent has a pawn that has reached the second rank if it's black, and the same method obviously works if it's white and the pawn's reached the seventh. And if you have a king and a pawn here, and white obviously has the queen, and she needs to be able to win the pawn. And it's white to move. It's actually really easy to win. All that you need to remember how to do is all you have to do is just dance. Dance around the pawn over and over again, and eventually, using the same pattern over and over again, you'll be able to get the king closer and you'll be able to win the pawn. So, let's learn how we do this dance. So, use your checks. Check, and you'll just keep using the checks to keep moving the queen so the king will never have a chance to push the pawn. So let's say something like c1, and then you go check. And it's not important to remember individual moves. What's more important is to remember this method. You give checks and you keep moving the queen closer. And, something like this, maybe a zigzag with the queen or something like that will work. And let's see here. The king never wants to step in front of the pawn, for a reason which I'm going to give in 1 second when we get a little bit closer. So check. And eventually, we force the king in front. That's what we want to be aiming to do. And so in this position here, we check. The king and pawn are both attacked. So the king has to either step to the side to give up the pawn, which he doesn't want to do, obviously. So he steps in front of the pawn. Now this is the whole point of our dancing around the pawn like this, with the king and giving all the checks. Because once we have the king in front of the pawn, we then have a free move, and the king can step forward. Because now, that pawn can't be pushed forward, which means the black king couldn't move it, so it gives the white king just a chance to step forward. So now black to move, he probably goes to f2 because f1 and the pawn is pinned, so it's not really threatening to move. But now it's threatening to queen. So we prevent that. We can't allow that, obviously. And we can actually just go ahead and pin the pawn with queen d2. And now there's no threat of it moving forward. So now king f1, pawn's threatening to promote again. So we continue with our dance. We go queen f4 check. And then, let's see, our king probably moves to g1 because he doesn't want to step in front of the pawn again. Then we give a check. King steps back to f1. And you're starting to see the method of what happens. You keep giving checks, you dance around the pawn. And then eventually you'll get this position, which we already had before, more or less. And then king e1, he steps in front of the pawn, so you bring the king forward. Now after the king steps in front of the pawn, and your king steps forward, then we're back to the same idea. And then we pin the pawn again, same type of idea. King can't push the pawn, so he steps out of the pin. He's threatening to push it, so what do? We go back to d4 check. And we just keep doing this same type of pattern. We keep dancing around the pawn with the queen. And forcing the king to step in front of the pawn. And we bring our king closer. And so yeah, we just keep doing the same type of thing over and over again. And this pattern should be starting to make sense by now. So threatens to queen, so you give a check. King doesn't want to step in front of the pawn, so you check. Now he's going to be forced to step in front of the pawn. So you can just bring the king closer. King d2. And yeah, we can just pin the pawn again. And now if he goes to d1, we actually have a really cool trick here. You can continue with the pattern, giving checks. But there actually is a really cool trick here. We can actually just play king d3. And if promotes to the knight, well, that's nothing to worry about because we all know how to checkmate with a knight and queen, I'm sure. If not, it's pretty easy. And to figure out, you just keep the king and queen on different colored squares. and I'll probably have to make a video about that as well. And if promotes to a queen, we can actually play queen c2, and that's checkmate. But just to go through it, just to be safe, let's show a method where you don't go and do that cool checkmate. But I just wanted to show that as well, because that idea does happen sometimes in these pawn to the 2nd or 7th rank idea. So it's good to be familiar with that type of idea. Okay. Another idea. Let's see here. Let's say you could continue with our usual pattern of like this idea, and then you can just win the pawn. If you go c2, you can just win with a fork, probably. Just queen d3. And if he decides to go back, let's see here, what would we do? We would do... So we can then get our king to attack the pawn. And that's the whole point of us moving the king up. We've been bringing him closer. And then if king f1, there's queen to f2. So yeah, it's pretty much over at this point. You don't even have to win the pawn sometimes. But yeah, I think that this should kind of establish how that pattern works. You just keep doing the dance around the pawn. Just remember that meme I put up at the beginning. And that should help spike your memory of just dance around the pawn until you can get your king close enough that you can either capture the pawn or give a checkmate. Alright, so hopefully this video helps you out and gives you a useful trick for if this happens in your endgames. Because if it actually does happen, it's happened to me a few times, so it does come up. It's not like an uncommon thing that never happens. You will most likely face this if you play chess on a regular basis. Alright, so thanks for watching. I hope this helps you out. Like my video, subscribe, and all that stuff. Alright, bye.